Hi everybody, this is Tamara from Moogly, and today we are doing a live video tutorial for the Red Heart City Chic Crochet Bandana Cowl. A nice long name, but if you check the link in the description, it should take you to the post on Moogly blog where I'll be embedding this video. We'll also be creating a left-handed video and embedding it at the same link. And of course, you'll find a link to the free pattern there, which is available on yarnspirations.com. Once again, the full name of that pattern, if you need to search for it on your favorite search engine, is Red Heart City Chic Crochet Bandana Cowl. Now, this is a pattern that I designed all the way back in 2014 using Red Heart Chic Sheep by Marley Bird yarn. Unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, that beautiful yarn has been discontinued. So I needed to find a new yarn that would be perfect for this pattern. You can use really any worsted weight yarn. That's what that yarn was. Just kind of a worsted 4 standard weight yarn. You can see right there. So, there's lots of those yarns out there that you could choose from. I decided today to use Red Heart Super Saver Brush. Not only does it come in similar colors to the Red Heart Chic Sheep, or at least these two colors, but it's also a 4 worsted weight yarn that's really nice and soft to wear, especially right around the neck where we would wear this bandana cowl. Now, in addition to the yarn, you do need a USI 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. This one is by Susan Bates. Now, since we're live, I am going to attempt to answer your questions and things as we go. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to try and get the video up here on my phone. Let's see. One moment. And it doesn't seem to want to load. So we'll try and take care of that a little bit later and go ahead and jump on into the pattern here. Okay, good. I've got it on another phone. Hi, Julia. Hi, Elaine. Thanks for everybody who's watching live. This video will be up on the channel afterwards and embedded on the blog in case you come in late. So, like I said, let's go ahead and get to it. Let me push these out of the way for just a moment, and we'll take a quick look here at the printed out pattern. You can see this one is just 2 pages, which is great. And I just want to point out a few of the notes. This pattern, we carry the color not in use loosely along the side of the work, except for where it says to go ahead and break the yarn. There's a couple little places where we have to do it, but for the most part, we're going to be able to carry our yarn along the side, which means less ends to weave in, which I'm always a big fan of. And once we get those first couple rows made, the stripe pattern is simply working 2 rows in each color, switching back between A and B. That forms our stripe pattern that you can see right here. Like I say, we've got just a couple rows to get it set up here. On the second page, we have the actual written pattern, of course, and there is a chart. Always super duper handy. So if you want to learn to read charts, this is a fun way to do it. You can read the written instructions and kind of compare, use the stitch key, see how the chart works. That's how I learned, so that's what I always recommend as well. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with our stitching here. Let me move that off to the side a little bit. And for this one, I'm going to start with our darker color here. Let me get it to focus. There we are. All right, Red Heart Super Saver Brushed. This one is the Shale colorway. I'm going to pull up a few yards here and see if I can pull my hands just a little bit closer to the camera and see if we can get it to focus. There we go. All right. I want to make sure we can see all these beautiful stitches. So with our first color, again, you can use the dark gray or whatever color you want to start your cowl with. I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. There we go. And start with a chain of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There we are. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Now you can work into whichever part of the chain you like. Personally, I prefer to work into the back hump. When we look at our chain, we have that V on top. That's sort of the top of our chain. Then there's those lumps underneath the chain. That's where I like to work into. I feel it just gives a nicer finished edge at the end of our project, but you can work into whichever part you like. So I'm going to go to that second chain from the hook. There's 1, 2, and make a single crochet. Just like that. There we go. Then, going back to our instructions here, again, I made this back in 2019, so bear with me here. We need to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we skip the next 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then right here we begin our tiny little repeat for row 1. We're going to yarn over, and it's not even really a repeat. But that's why they kind of chose to write it up. So we are going to make a 3 double crochet cluster right here. So we're going to yarn over, because it's a double crochet cluster. Make sure we skip those 3 stitches, go into the back of that next one, and we start a double crochet, but we stop it when we have 2 loops left on the hook, and then we do that twice more, going to that same stitch each time. So we go in there, yarn over and pull through 2, stop again. Now we've got 3 loops left on the hook. Yarn over, go into that same stitch, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now we've got 4 loops left on our hook. So we yarn over and pull through to finish that 3 double crochet cluster. Then we chain 2 again, 1, 2, skip the next 2 stitches, or excuse me, skip the next 3 stitches, and then single crochet in that very last chain. So we skip those 3, there's 4 left, so we single crochet in that very last one. There we go. Alrighty. So that is the end of row 1. Not super impressive, but it tells you right away we are working from the bottom point on up, which is my favorite way to work projects like this. So our finished cowl is approximately 30 inches around and 18 inches deep. If you wanted to change this, turn it into a full-size shawl, you could absolutely keep that stitch pattern going, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger as you go. So at the end of row 1, which is where we're at right now, we've single crocheted in that last chain, and this is one of those rare ones where we are going to have to break our yarn. Just like I say, those first couple rows to get it set up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. I'm going to leave about 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches or so to weave in. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull that on through to finish it up. One thing, we do want to make sure to turn our work. So I'm just going to turn that and set it down while I get my next yarn ready. The second color I'm using today is Red Heart Super Saver Brushed in Soft Mink. Another really gorgeous one. Just so pretty. I love this color. All right, so let me pull up some more yards here, or at least a few feet. There we go. I always like to make sure I'm controlling the tension with my hands and the hook, that it's not pulling tightly out of the skein, because that will pull your stitches a little tighter and mess with your gauge quite a bit. Alrighty, so now we are ready for our second row. So we are going to join color B. We're just going to join it right in that very first stitch. Sometimes they like to try and hide. There we go. Getting that first stitch, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a really tight slip stitch, excuse me, right there on that first stitch. And then we can begin our row 2 with a chain of 1 and then a single crochet right back in that first stitch. There we go. Then we chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we're going to skip everything that we did in the previous row and come all the way over to that last single crochet and put a single crochet right in that single crochet. Kind of a crazy row, right? But it'll make sense as we go. Let me pull that up. There we go. So that is what it should look like at the end of row 2. Okay, of course, at the end of row 2, we're going to turn again. And we begin row 3 with a chain of 5. We don't have to break our yarn again. So I actually like to chain and then turn, but you can do it however you like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure to work the right direction here. And then I am going to work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So again, we can go under those top 2 loops, or if you want to at this point, you can still go under that back hump. I'll put my single crochet right there. Alrighty, then again, if we still need to kind of turn that and make sure we're working back here in the right direction. And then we chain 2. 1, 2. Oop, there we go. And then we work a 3 double crochet cluster in that first single crochet. So that's that very first one right there. You can see we're really expanding the sides. So we came out here, single crochet there. We're going to put our first 3 double crochet cluster of this row right in that single crochet. So we yarn over and take the time, kind of make sure it's all straightened out. Go right into that first single crochet, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then do that twice more. Yarn over, go into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Last one, yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through all 4 to finish our 3 double crochet cluster. Then I have to go back to my instructions here. Let's see. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then we single crochet right smack dab in the middle of that chain 7 space. Now, if you wanted to, you could find that center chain and try and go into the chain itself. Personally, I prefer working to the chain space. It's just a whole lot easier than trying to get the hook into one of those little chains. We just want to sort of aim for the middle of it. You don't have to try and measure it out or find the exact stitch. Just eyeball it right to the middle, yarn over, pull up a loop, and put a single crochet right in there. This fuzzy yarn, it'll stay put pretty well. If it slides around a lot rather, then when you do your blocking, you can straighten that out if you like. But with this fuzzy yarn, it should stay put pretty darn well. After that, we chain 2 again. Whoop, 1 and 2. There we go. And now we put another one of those 3 double crochet clusters in that last single crochet right there. We do want to keep this pattern really symmetrical. So we start 1 double crochet, start another double crochet, and a 3rd double crochet. When we've got 4 loops left on the hook, we yarn over and pull through all 4. There we go. So that's what it looks like so far. But now, to finish it off and mimic what we did here with this great big chain, we are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we are going to work a treble crochet stitch right back into that single crochet again. So that single crochet has seen a fair bit of action. It's got the three double crochet cluster there, and it's going to have a treble. So we yarn over twice for a treble, go right back into that single crochet, yarn over and pull up our loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So if you haven't made a treble crochet before, it's just like a double, but with 1 more yarn over, and so one more pair of loops to work off at the end. So this is what it should look like at the end of row 3. So that means it is time to drop this yarn and join our color A. We've done 2 rows in this. We want to switch back and do 2 rows in our next color. And these 3 rows that we've done, if we come back to our written pattern here, just so you can follow along, those are our 3 setup rows. From here on out, when we join our color A back in, we're going to be starting right here, the proceeding as follows in the stripe pattern. So we know 2 rows in the next color, 2 rows in the next color. We just pattern through, and it's a 2-row repeat. So that makes it super easy. You just repeat these 2 rows with each color until you have the correct number of rows made. Again, if you'd like to make it bigger, smaller, totally up to you. Very easy to adjust because you just keep working those same 2 rows. If you didn't want to do stripes, if you want to do the whole thing in one color, don't worry about changing colors. Don't worry about breaking the yarn. Just work straight on through the pattern as written. So how are we going to join this yarn? Because we want to carry the yarn along the sides. We don't want to cut it and, finish it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully pull that last loop out until I've got my active loop and the very top loop of that treble crochet. So I do need to yarn over and pull through 1 more time to finish my treble, but rather than doing it with the current yarn, I'm going to grab the next yarn, color A. I'll yarn over with that end and just pull through and finish the stitch with that one. Then I can just leave, if I can get it to hang down there we go. I will just leave that tail end hanging and weave it in when I'm done. And in the meantime, we're going to carry the yarn attached to the skeins here up the side so that we have fewer ends to weave in. If you don't like doing that, if you don't like carrying yarns along the side, you absolutely can cut the yarn and just rejoin for each stripe if you prefer, or again, if you're working the whole thing in one color, then it's not a worry at all. So let's begin our proceed as follows in stripe pattern, row 1, our first row here. So these are going to be the 2 rows coming up here that you repeat for the rest of the pattern until we do our edging. So for the first row, we chain 1. There we are. And if that pulls up a little too high, don't be afraid to pull back on that tail end if your chain got a little too exuberant. There we go. We single crochet right in that very first stitch. And pull that up a little bit closer here. I also need to pull up some more of that gray yarn. There we go. All right, so we're going to single crochet right in that very first stitch, like so. And then we chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we let's see. we single crochet in the next single crochet. So that means we come back here and look at our work. This was a cluster. This right here in the middle, that is our next single crochet. So we'll put a single crochet right there. Remember we had that crazy loop there, and I think it was row 2. That's kind of what we're doing now. Single crochet, chain 7, single crochet in the single crochet, chain 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then skip over here and single crochet in that very last single crochet. Make sure I get in there just right. There we go. And that is row 1 of our stripe pattern. Now, obviously, as you grow, there's going to be more repeats. We're going to keep growing as we go. Before, if you'll remember, when you look down here, we had just the 1 chain 7 loop. Now we've got 2 chain 7 loops. So the next time we do this row, which will be back in this color, we'd have 3 chain 7 loops. So you can see how that's just going to keep growing. Each one, we just single crochet in the single crochets, chain 7, keep working our way across for that row repeat. Then we move on to the second row of our repeat. We chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Sounds familiar, right? There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn now because now I'm ready to start actually working back into this row a little bit. We are going to, I'm just checking my instructions here, make sure I get this right. Yep. As I suspected, we cluster, right? We got double crochet cluster right in that first single crochet there. So they start 1 and 2 and 3. There we are. 3 double crochet cluster. And then to continue on across, we chain 2, 1, 2. That brings us to that big chain 7. So we're going to do another single crochet right in the middle. Chain 2 again, 1, 2. And then when we come to the single crochet, we put a 3 double crochet cluster in it. Go in right in that stitch. Start our first double crochet. Get that end out of the way a little bit there. Start our second double crochet. Start our third double crochet. 4 loops left on the hook. We yarn over and finish it up. Chain 2 again. That takes us to another one of those big chain 7s. So we put a single crochet right in the middle. Chain 2 again. That brings us to a single crochet, which means it needs a 3 double crochet cluster, which means I need a little bit more yarn. There we go. So we put that right in that final single crochet. Start each one of those 3. There we go. Pull that through. Let me get that back up here a little bit. And then to finish off this row, we work our cluster. We chain 2, 1, 2, and then we work another treble right back into that same stitch. So one more time, for those who haven't done a treble crochet before, we yarn over twice, insert our hook in the indicated stitch, in this case that last single crochet, yarn over and pull up our loop, then simply yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. But wait, remember, anytime, if you are doing the stripe pattern, you get to that treble crochet, we don't want to finish this stitch. We want to stop with that last loop left on the hook, 2 loops, so that we can pull up that other color right there and switch right back to it. So now let's talk about that a little bit. If I were, let me just straighten out all our ends here. If I were to just pull this straight up right now, and I absolutely could, it would be floating this whole distance along this stitch, which is fine. And our final edging will absolutely cover all that up when we crochet all the way around our piece. Then we will cover that up and close it when we work those stitches along this side. However, I like to tack it down just a little bit more as I go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this treble crochet out all the way. Often something I have to do while I'm crocheting for myself off camera as well. I simply forget to do this sometimes, so never be afraid to pull out that last stitch and make it right. We are going to yarn over twice again because it's treble crochet. Insert our hook in that stitch just like we did before, but now before I yarn over and pull up my loop, I'm going to, in our big mess of ends here, I'm going to find that other color. I'm going to pull up a little bit more of it as well here, so I have a little bit more to work with. There we go. And now I am going to lay our color over, our unused color, over my hook and just kind of hold it out of the way there as I yarn over and pull that loop up for my treble crochet. Now, this yarn is pulled up and tacked down just that little extra bit. I'm going to start finishing my treble, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. I want to stop when I have my active loop and the last loop for my treble. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop this one to the back and pull this one forward, put it over my hook, and finish my stitch. So you can see it's still laying along some of this side here of the row, but it's tacked down a little bit more. And when we make our edging, we can make sure to crochet over that and close it in the stitches, and it will disappear. And you can see here from the front how it really is pretty hidden already. Now we can continue to leave that color hanging out there so we can pull it back up when we've finished with our color B. So, all right. I think you guys are following along. If you have any questions and you're watching live, or if you're watching the recording, please do feel free to drop those here so I can try and answer them. But let's do that row repeat one more time. Our first and second row, just like we just did here in the darker gray, we do the exact same thing in this color. Just want to do, like I say, one more set of row repeats here so you can really see how this pattern starts to come together. You can already see it's a beautiful, light, lacy pattern with some great texture from the Red Heart Super Saver brushed. So let's start again with row 1 one more time. We chain 1, turn, single crochet right in that very first stitch. These are our big chain 7s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then we just jump right on over, we know, to that next single crochet. Put a single crochet right in there. And then do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see. Kind of straighten it out here. Find that next single crochet in there. There we go. And now, like I say, every time we make a new row, or a new set of stripes, we're gonna have one more of these loops. So now we've got our third one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Definitely need to pull up some more of this yarn here. I need to straighten it out. You see it looked like a big tangle? It's really just one flip over. So if you find your yarn starting to do that every once in a while, it's a good idea to kind of straighten it out. There we go. Pull up some more of the lighter gray. All right. Hi, Queenie and Priscilla. Thanks for joining us on the live. All right. So we've got our last chain 7. We can jump all the way over here and single crochet in that very last single crochet there. There we go. Oops, I went into the wrong part of the stitch. I went into my turning chain instead. There we go. All righty. So that is row 1 of our repeat. As predicted, we've now got one more loop. So we know the next time we make this row 1 repeat, we'll have 4 loops, 5, etc., etc. Continuing on, for row 2 of our 2-row repeat, we chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So I'll put that right there. There we go. Then we chain 2. 1, 2. And then we know we're going to cluster. We're going to have to turn our work at this point. I was just kind of letting it hang out there before, but now we've got to turn it. We cluster right in that first single crochet. So there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochets started. Finish it off with a yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And then remember our pattern for this one. Chain 2, single crochet in the middle of the chain 7. And I like to put a fair bit of tension on that and really kind of pull up on that center part. Helps it get it in just the right spot. Chain 2 again. 3 double crochet cluster in the next single crochet. Go all the way around. 1 and 2 and 3. Yarn over and pull through all 4. Chain 2 again. Brings us to a chain 7 space. We put a single crochet right in the middle. Chain 2 again. Oop. Get that back on my hook. There we go. Got too much tension coming off the skein. Need to pull up my yarn here. There we go. Now we can do another 3 double crochet cluster in that single crochet. So there's 1 and 2, and 3. Yarn over and pull through all 4, chain 2, last loop, single crochet in the middle of that chain 7, chain 2, and remember in this last one we're going to work our 3 double crochet cluster, a chain 2, and then put our treble right back in that stitch. But we want to make sure to carry up that next color because it's just 2 rows in each color. At the end of this row in that treble is where we want to switch back to this one. So let's go ahead and make the cluster first. Right in that last one, start 1, and then 2, and then 3 double crochets. Yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops, chain 2, and now it's time for our treble. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn over twice. Then I want to find, should be starting to a little bit easier once we get away from these other ends. And you can go ahead and weave those in anytime if you'd like. Get my second yarn over back on there. We are going to go right back in that same stitch right there. After I insert my hook, I'm going to lay the other color just right over my hook like that. Yarn over and pull through. There we are. Then yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Stop with the last 2 loops left on my hook. Drop that color I'm working with to the back, pull up the other color, yarn over, and finish my stitch with that one. And we just keep doing that until we have the size of the cowl or the shawl that you like. Switching colors every 2 rows, just repeating those 2 rows. It's going to grow by 1 loop and 1 cluster each time. You can see here we had 2, here we've got 3 clusters, here we've got 4 clusters. It's just going to keep on growing from there. So after you have finished making all the rows that you want to make, what we want to do is join color A to the first stitch of the last row. So what does that mean? It might sound like you wanted to, keep going with color A at this point, but if you've reached the end, we actually want to start back over here. So let's see, 16 times more, 17, 18. You'd have 1, 2, if we counted this as 2 rows, which we can't really, but you would have a total of 18 stripes, essentially, is how we want to think of it. So, or excuse me, 19. 1, 2. Just double checking. Like I say, I haven't done this in a little while. Double checking, yes. So you would have a total of 19 stripes. We've got 16, 17, 18, yes. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. At the end, if you do all the repeats as written, it would be a total of 19 stripes. So the last stripe would be in the darker color or whatever color you used first. So for the sake of time here, I am going to pretend that I have made a full 19 stripes of these colors and that we finished with that darker color. Again, if you want to change it up, it's your project. You can do it however you like. At the end of those stripes, or however big you want to make it, we can go ahead and cut both our ends. That last one we'll want to secure, either just by pulling it straight through or pulling it through the last stitch like that. That last color here, even though we tacked it down, it's fine. It can hang out. We don't have to worry about securing it until we weave in our ends. We just want to weave it in with all the rest of our ends. So after you've made, let me turn back to the correct page of my instructions here. There we go. So after you have finished making your rows, you want to come back and join from the right side. So that would be this side right here. The correct side, not right or left, but the correct side, the right side versus wrong side. So we want this side to be showing up. We are going to take whatever color we want our border to be in. I used color A. Let me get that color B out of the way there, trying to stay in the party. We're done with you, color B. Here we go. Color A. Find the end. Alrighty, so now what we're going to do, we'll make our border from the right side. So that means we join color A with a slip stitch to the first single crochet made in the last row. So whatever color you decide to make your last row, we don't turn after that last row. We want to make sure to join to that very first stitch that you made in the last row of our triangle. So let's go ahead and take our darker color, find that first single crochet there, and join with a slip stitch. Again, pull that down nice and tight. We can weave in that end when we're all done. Then we simply chain 1 and work 1 round of single crochet all the way around the shawl. So that means we are going to work a single crochet right in that first stitch. And then here we've got a chain 2, so I would just go ahead and put 2 single crochets there. A cluster has a lot of parts, but at the end of the day, there's one V at the top, it's 1 stitch. We just put a single crochet in the top of the cluster. Another chain 2, single crochet 2 in the chain 2. Come to a single crochet in there. Another chain 2, 2 single crochets in the chain 2. Keep working our way all the way across. And I just want to get to this side here so we can talk a little bit about how we finish up our cowl and as well how we work along the side here. So pretty straightforward. If there's a stitch there, you want to have a single crochet either in it or around it. But I think this gives a really nice finished edge to both the top and the sides of our shawl. And a lot of people ask, can you leave off the edging on different projects? But on this one, especially since if we've done the striping, you will need to definitely work an edging around it because you'll need that to cover up those floats, the yarn that you carried along the side. So we are working our way almost all the way across here. We've got our last chain 2 space. And of course, we don't want to forget that final single crochet, or excuse me, maybe a treble crochet that we made right there. And that's where we work there. So when we get to the corners, we simply put 3 single crochets in each corner. So this stitch is the stitch at the corner. So we've got 1 there. We'll go ahead and put a second one in there. Just pull that end right out of the way. And a third. And now we want to single crochet evenly down the side. So let's talk about how to do that. Generally speaking, my rule of thumb is when you work into a single crochet, you make 1 single crochet. When you're working to the side of it, that is. When you're working into a double crochet, you do 2. When you're working into a treble crochet, you do 3. So here, we always know this is going to be a treble crochet. So you can choose. Do you want to work around the whole stitch like that, covering it up completely? There we go. Or would you prefer to split the stitch? Maybe just pick up a couple of strands along the edge and crochet there. You can do this portion genuinely however you prefer. It's personal taste and preference. Looking at the pictures that I did, it looks like I probably worked into the actual stitch itself. But again, totally however you prefer to do it. If you want to split that stitch, you can. If you want to work over it, it gives it a little bit chunkier look, but it's totally up to you. So let's go ahead and split the stitch here for this heck of it and see how it looks here. The trickiest part, if you do split the stitch, is you want to make sure that you go in at the same depth. Otherwise, this edging can look a little bit uneven. So if you have trouble with that, then working around the stitch as a whole might be a better option for you. But there's a treble, so we want to work 3 single crochets in the side there. Then we know that was worked into a single crochet there, so we can just put 1 stitch in the side of the single crochet. Then we come to the treble, so we would do 3 stitches there again. This time I'll just go around the whole stitch. But whether you go around the whole stitch or not, once you get past that first row there, you're going to have your carried yarn. So just make sure when you're making those edging stitches that carried yarn is on top of your hook, just like the stitch itself. Whether you're splitting the stitch or not, you want that carried yarn on top of your hook as you make these stitches, because that will cover it up and help it disappear. So you can see right here, there's 3 stitches around that stitch. And now that carried yarn is completely hidden and we didn't have to break our yarn at the end of each one of these stripes. So to finish it up, we simply keep crocheting along this edge. When we get to this bottom stitch here, which would be the bottom of that cluster, go ahead and put 3 single crochets right there. Same thing up this side. These are chains, not trebles, but they kind of act like trebles, right? We're symmetrical here, so we want to treat these chains as if they were a treble with 3 single crochets, and then 1 in the single crochet. Get all the way back to the top here, join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet you made, and then the second round is very simply, let's see, chain 1, and basically single crochet, excuse me, it has a little different pattern, my apologies. For the second round, which I'm going to pretend we've gone all the way around here. Instead, I'm going to turn. We're going to pretend I've worked all the way around and we're working from the same direction now for the sake of just demonstration here. The second round of our edging, we chain 1, work 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So since that's where our repeat begins, that would be our first stitch. Then we skip the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, skip the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the next, and skip the stitch after that. So that is actually our repeat for the second round. Again, working 3 single crochets in each corner. So that would be the center single crochet of each of the corners you did previously. You can see it still creates a really even edge, just a little bit different. And if you'd prefer to simply work that round even, you certainly may. After you have finished working those 2 edgings, those 2 rounds of edging, we still have a flat triangle. How does it become a cowl? Very simply, we take a little bit of yarn after we've finished crocheting our shawl in all of its pieces. Go ahead, leave a little bit of length. You could even just leave a long end when you've come back up here. And then we simply take the ends of our shawl. Remember, make sure row 1 is at the bottom, so we have the correct edges here. Bring them together and sew these few stitches at the ends together, and that's it. This one has very, very simple assembly. We don't crochet the sides together here. We make it flat and then simply stitch together with a little bit of extra yarn and a sewing needle. You would want to use a yarn needle, the same kind you use to weave in your ends. Simply sew them together, weave in those ends just as you normally would, and you will have your finished Red Heart City Chic Crochet Bandana Cowl. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a yarn substitution. Today, we used Red Heart Super Saver Brushed, and the original was made in Red Heart Chic Sheep by Marley Bird. So the finished size on this one may be a little bit different, but as you can see, it's a very flexible pattern, so you can really make it to whatever size you like. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope I've answered all your questions. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you joining us today. And again, you can go to the link in the description for the right-handed, which we've just done, and eventually the left-handed version of the Red Heart City Chic Crochet Bandana Cowl. And there you'll also find this link to the free pattern download you can get just like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, everybody.